Hi guys, thank you very much for tuning in once again to our Thursday night talks here on Space Store Live. Now let me tell you, tonight is going to be slightly different. And we're going to be talking about Rasor, a new streaming service for space data. Now that's all the greatest and latest imagery from across the solar system, across the universe, all coming into one nice accessible platform. It's being developed in partnership with a company called Spacetime Development and being co-funded by the European Space Agency. And tonight we're going to be bringing you the presentation of the Rasor launch party we filmed back at the start of March before lockdown. We were joined by a wonderful group of people across space organisations, schools and universities, and of course Space Store team, where we launched Rasor to the public, so do stay tuned for that. But before, we're going to be bringing you a sneak of the Rasor preview our team have put together, and here it is. Now, I really hope you enjoyed that little sneak of the preview. Please head to our website if you want to watch the full version. And of course, do let us know your thoughts using the survey in the link below. And you'll also get yourself a 5% discount code in-store and online at Space Store. Now, as promised, here is the Rasor launch party presentation given by me and the CEO, Ringler, back in March at Space Store. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned.
My name's Stephen Ringler, and I am the Managing Director of Spacetime Development, which is just currently under contract with the European Space Agency to develop this cool new thing. So thank you so much for coming, and we hope you enjoy just a little bit about what it's about that we're going to tell you now. So, who's Spacetime Development, you're probably wondering. Well, we do have a banner over there. So, I guess that means we're officially a company if you have a pop-up banner. And we're all about connecting people and ideas and businesses. We like to connect. In fact, one of the programs we run is called Connect Harwell for the Harwell campus. But how do we do that? And who do we do that with? We do it mainly with high-tech industry, but primarily focused in space, in the space sector. We do business development, aka we try to make companies money and help bring in contracts for them. We do things like event planning, so the event that you have seen today, that you're at today, our team put on. We do various strategic partnerships. This is my catch-all for the team has different skill sets and we can hire those out as a consultancy. And finally, we do engineering support. So we have 3 rocket scientists on the team, so we can do various things from coding to developing various engineering products, such as one that we're going to talk about tonight. So that's a little bit about what we do and who we are. This is the younger me, which I love. I am 20 years as a rocket scientist working in the space industry. We have Abby Richings down over there, if you want to wave, who's our sponsors and event manager. So if you guys are looking for some business development support, she's a great person to talk to. Helen Neal over there is one of our events coordinators, so she is a pro at planning events. And Lakshya Sethi, who's over here, is our project engineer and primary developer, kind of running the project of Rasor, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. We are in partnership with a couple companies, so we want to make sure to put this out there and shout about it a little bit. So this project is co-funded by the European Space Agency, who sends their apologies for not being able to come tonight. They're actually under some very strict lockdown rules, which is unfortunate in the given times, but that's actually the reason they're not here. There was quite a few of them that were going to come. We have the Satellite Applications Catapult, who's one of our partners. So Emma from Catapult's here. Thanks for coming. She's actually worked very hard with us on putting this proposal together, along with Emily over here from Catapult, who's on our team, helping us develop it. The UK Space Agency has supported this activity as well, and Space Door as one of our partners in this project. And oh, for Space Door, where's Ollie? Where are you at, Ollie? So Ollie over here is our representative on the Razor project. So great guy to talk to about it. So over to you, Laksh.
So good evening. Thank you for coming once again. My name is Lakshya. I'm the project engineer for Razor, working with space-time development. Most of you have heard the word Razor by now. For its acronym, it's a real-time accessible space operational reel. Now, I don't think that makes things any clearer for you. What it actually means is it's a platform for live space data. And I started working with space-time development last July as part of my internship year for my aerospace degree. And even before that, I've had a great interest in space. And we all know, if we're part of the space industry, that we have so much cool data. And that's where the inspiration for this comes from. We had data from the Sentinel satellites. See a really cool picture of it, Cambridge, presented in false colours. You have the snow-covered Balkan Mountains, also by Sentinel-2. And let's not forget Mars. This region on Mars is called Nilo Syrtis Mensae, captured by an instrument on Mars Express. Another really cool picture of Mars, layers of rock and sand, and an impact crater captured by NASA's MRO. And it's not only images, we also have space live video imagery from space. Oh, Steve's messing up my presentation. Now this specific clip you're going to watch now is it's playing now. Let's watch through it. And this was captured by NASA's Solar Dynamic Observatory a few years ago now. And let's just have a look at what kind of space data we have available to us. Now, if that wasn't enough to persuade you that space imagery is cool, I'm not sure what will. It's just to show to you guys that we have a plethora of data we can use from space, not only images but also videos. Some of you might have seen this before. It's one of the most famous images captured by NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, and it shows a really cool perspective of the Earth from the Moon. Coming back to Razor now, we've discussed through all these different types of the space data we have available to us. What Razor wants to do is bring it all together in one easy-to-use, accessible platform. Something which might look like this.
One more click.
This. So that's just a mock-up. We want it to have images, videos, live, replays, everything from space we want to have available, easy to use, easy to view, and always accessible in one platform. And it can include videos from the ISS, include astronomy, sort of things from the Hubble Space Telescope, launches, whether that's SpaceX, NASA, ESA, the whole lot, all in one platform. And we want Razor to be available via web clients, so as a web browser, so you can go onto your desktops and laptops at home, type in a website that comes Razor as. We also hopefully want it to be an app, so smartphones and tablets you can view Razor, and also for digital screens, so for example, the ones you're looking at right now in store. Now, the benefits of Razor, let's look at the retail sector first. If you imagine sitting in your favorite cafe or pub, usually they have digital screens, and most of the time there's something of the like of news or sport on them. Now imagine live space data on those screens. How exciting would that be? And that's what Razor wants to offer, so you can view live space data anywhere, anytime, easily. I'm going to hand over to Steve.
So I wear another hat, which is I also run the Space Store. And so just to tell you a little bit about how Space Store would and could and currently does, in a way, use Razor. So you see screens that are out here right next door. This is live data. This is the International Space Station where it's located. It's currently going over, it looks like, Mongolia. And then on the right-hand side is a video camera that's pointing down from the space station. That's live. And we want to use this in our Space Stores. So what we see here are some early mock-ups of what Space Store was, what we thought it would become, and it's actually a much bigger version of what you're standing in now, where we had envisioned having exactly this kind of capability. So you can see people sitting at a bar, drinking alcohol, having a good time, satellites going around. What's that?
Sorry, getting spaced.
Yeah, getting spaced. Nice one, nice one. I like that. I got to think of a better pun now. Mars, where satellites are located, the data that we have here. And then another possible location for Razor is space organizations. I've been in the space industry 20 years, and I have to say, pretty much every single lobby I've ever been into, with a very, very few exceptions, are pretty boring for space companies. And it kind of blows my mind because, man, we have the coolest data. We have the coolest pictures. Why in the world are we not showing it? So, for example, let's say you were to go to Open Cosmos. Open Cosmos did give me permission to use their logo because well, you'll see why in a minute. But for example, you walk into the Open Cosmos lobby and let's say they've built a spacecraft that is taking video of the sun or taking images of the sun. Why not have that displaying when your customers come in or when your visitors come in to show off the kind of work that you're doing? Another area is educational organizations.
For example, schools and universities who might also be interested in such a service. We do so much outreach in the space industry, or try to do a lot of outreach in the space industry, and trying to inspire the next generation of students to pick up STEM subjects, science, space, engineering, and having the opportunity to show live space data, it can be so inspiring for students. So, for example, in a school university, in their reception lobby, they might want to show the latest images from Mars or the most recent findings from what the Mars rovers have found. There's also the opportunity to have it in classrooms. Now, this is a very important part of Razor because there's so much you can do around live space data in terms of activities. You can supplement classes, you can have lessons, you can have after-school clubs, all supplemented by live space data, which increases interaction, it increases engagement with the students, which leads us onto museums and galleries, who might also want to display live space data to their visitors and to students. This includes science centres who have activities based around, for example, building a satellite. So why not have a satellite on screen live that is showing you right there? So it can be so inspiring.
And then finally, I don't know about you all, but I like to entertain guests at my house. And so occasionally, I got this really cool gizmo called the Apple TV. If you haven't heard of it, it's really cool. And it has this neat feature where it'll put screensavers up on your TV. And that does have images from the ISS now, which is super cool. But when I host a party, I'll have the screensavers up and have some music running. It's just kind of a nice ambiance. How cool would it be to have Razor as well? Or on your phone, or a tablet or something else. So we're also thinking this could be used potentially by individual users as well. So, a lot of you are probably thinking, especially those in the space organizations that are here, wait a minute, there's already live space data that you can get. And this is true. There is live space data. That's where we got most of this stuff, is we know where it's located. But what does this space data look like? Well, one of the problems with the space data that's out there that you can access, it's very much bent towards the science community or the engineering community. It's not necessarily using accessible language, or honestly, it's not even that accessible to get to. So there is data out there. For example, CDAS, which is actually a great system that we will be using ourselves for Razor, but there's challenges associated with accessing that data. If you want to look at some data from the sun, this is where you can go. Gives you some cool pictures. Do you have any idea what EIT means? I don't. So there's some difficult language. Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, there was that awesome image we showed you earlier. That was a picture from there. And there's, it's a little bit clunky to look at. And this is my favorite one. So this is available. If you want to go check out Mars Express and you know how to process MEX files, go for it. We want to make Razor accessible. We want to make it easy to use. And we want to also really look at the culture of now. So everybody wants things, within the last 30 seconds. What's the latest news? So that's why we want to have as much possible live data as we can. And those folks that are here in the space industry know that live space data is hard to come by. In fact, most data from space takes at least a few hours to days to process. So we're going to get it as live as possible. But here's one cool example of some live data. So you can see over here on the right-hand side, there's a sunrise that's happening on the space station. So you'll get to enjoy that as we continue on the presentation. So where are we at with this project? So it all started about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Emily, myself, Emma started working at the Catapult, trying to get some things up together. A gentleman named Keith put some mock-ups. Move fast forward till now, February 1st, we launched our project with the European Space Agency. This project is a feasibility study. So we're inviting you at the very beginning of this study. It's going to last for about 8 months. And really what we're trying to do is find out does it make sense to do something like this? First, is there a need? Is there interest? But second, is there a business model around that? So that's what we've started with ESA on the first. The three companies in the middle, Space Store, Open Cosmos, and St. Joseph's College, which is an independent school in Reading, have all signed letters of interest to support the Razor project in this feasibility study. So we've already got some groups involved. We'd like some more. And then we've also started a survey to find out more about what people need and want or like. So we've started that, and there might be an opportunity for everybody here to fill out that survey for us at some point in the near future. So we want to go. So if you know me, you know that I like engagement. I like questions. So we're going to jump into some Q&A in a second. But just to preempt a couple questions that are probably on folks' minds, things like timescales. What do you think? When is this going to come out, et cetera? We have an 8-month feasibility study followed by a demonstration study if everything goes well with the European Space Agency. We're hoping to have something for people to actually use and try and test at the latter part of this year, early part of next year, with full market rollout, hopefully in around 2022. So that's the timeline that we're looking at. Branding. So this is an interesting one. So I don't know if you noticed, but as we went through all the mock-ups, there was a lot of branding associated with those mock-ups that were actually Space Store branding. And that was on purpose, because even though this is a space-time development product, one of the questions, one of the things we're kind of grappling with is, well, do we want to let it be branded by whatever company or organization wants to use it? So take Oxford Space Systems, for example. So got Mike here from Oxford Space Systems. They have some pretty cool videos of harpoons shooting at things in space using some of the hardware that they built. So why not have, if say in the Oxford Space Systems lobby, a digital screen that's showing off Oxford Space Systems. You could brand it Oxford Space Systems. Why have it as Razor? So that's one of the things we're thinking about in terms of branding. And then finally, pricing. How do we want to price this? I mean, the honest to gosh answer is we don't really know, but we have given it quite a bit of thought, and we're running kind of at the moment with kind of like a Netflix subscription model. So something along the lines of a few quid a month to 10, 20s, 30 quid per month. That's the kind of idea that we're thinking. Somebody asked me earlier today, well, what about one-offs? So that could be, maybe there's one-off use for this service at like a big conference or space conferences, things like that. So those are all things that we're working out and thinking about in this feasibility phase. So I preempted a few questions, but I'm hoping that there are some other questions that some folks in the audience have, and we can engage a little bit. So, questions, derogatory remarks. Just kidding.
Okay. Steve, is the feasibility study going to be accessible to the public? So it's going to be a web portal that's been either...
Yeah, there will be a web portal. We're on contract to have a web portal. So all ESA feasibility studies have one. So that should be up in the next 2 months or so. And then we're planning to have a dedicated website for it as well. Thanks for that.
Another question, but as you said, with putting this data, I'm sure that you don't get just plain 2D image, but more like more information about it. Have you tried like 3D models and representing using 3D technology?
So that's a good question. So I think if at least in the way we're thinking about using this, is it would be on two-dimensional screens. And I don't think the 3D TV like really took off, which actually is really sad for me because I bought one sitting in my house. And I love it. Cloudy with a chance of meatballs, amazing on a 3D screen. But that's something we could definitely consider because I think I don't think we have thought about that, but there's possibilities maybe with VR so that it looks more 3D, that kind of thing. There's a really cool company called InSpace that is developing a product that we'd be able to potentially work with where we have live data that you can look through virtual reality, which would be pretty cool.
The extension of that question is, you're obviously showing very strong visual content.
Yeah.
You deliberately said we're not going to get into the real raw data.
Yeah.
So how deep do you go? Where's your depth in terms of, well, we're not going to go too far with this because it's getting too scientific or too complicated?
That's a great question. So at the moment, the plan is that we want to have accessible language on these various photos or images or video. We want to have timestamps so people know what it's about. But we kind of want the image to speak for itself for the most part. So what I'm going to encourage you all to do, so it preempts something I was going to mention later, is in the back room where we have some other cool goodies, we have another mock-up of Razor that's going on that puts some of that language that we were thinking, like the level that we're looking at going to. So it'd be interesting to get feedback from folks about, well, that's maybe not enough, because it probably won't scratch the itch for everybody, especially people like me who are more scientifically minded, and I want to know all the details. I want to know what spectrum they used. I want to know, how many, I want to know what instrument they use. I want to know all sorts of things. So that's a really good question. Thanks for that. Yeah?
Will the images that you show be free for public use?
So the idea behind Razor is that there would be a commercial model behind it, so that it would cost money to use, potentially not very much at all in terms of a subscription if it's like Netflix. A lot of the imagery that we're starting with the feasibility study is all free, like free to access. Anybody could access it, maybe not easily, because that's why we're working with ESA. We want to just kind of prove out the concept. However, there are companies out there, like I mentioned InSpace, there's another, I think it's EarthEye. There's a number of companies that actually are going to be creating feeds that will cost money that we potentially would want to get in here too. Kind of like how, I like that question. The analogy is how Disney, even though there's Disney Plus, but Disney still feeds into Netflix. So that's the analogy.
Can I ask a question, please, about the use in schools?
Yeah.
So I've spent all of this week and today, particularly on World Book Day, talking about space and about writing. And schools, even though there's a lot of information for them, you can go onto the ESA website, NASA website, UK Space Agency, and there are things for children to do. I can see this as being a fantastic opportunity for schools and classrooms in particular. Let's say a school subscribe, on each of the whiteboards, each class, particularly year 5s and 6s who study space, have access to this. What do you anticipate sitting behind it? So data for school is great, being able to look at inside, it's fantastic. How would that help schools rather than just the data?
So you mean in terms of the curriculum that schools have?
The information behind this.
Okay.
So if you went into a particular image there, and there's data, what would schools benefit from?
Okay, I see. So for example, so at Space Store, we run an event called Fascination Space, and it's a 2-hour event where we do all sorts of experiences with people of all ages, young people, old people. We do this event at schools, and we do this event with schools coming here to the shop. And some of my staff have actually observed that certain age groups really like to see replays of rocket launches, which is interesting because for whatever reason, I'd never thought of putting that in our presentation or what we do. But that particular thing blows the kids' mind and inspires them and makes them ask more questions and do more things. So there's that aspect to it, of the inspiration side. In terms of the more detailed STEM side of things, I think we should probably give that some more thought, because at the moment, we are keeping it at a very high level, but there might be now, based on 2 questions alone at this event, that's why we're getting people involved early, is that maybe there's a market for that behind some of what's here, there's actually more detail, or there's more engagement from a learning perspective. So
have you put this to schools? I mean, there's loads of schools in Oxfordshire and Berkshire. Is it going out to all schools?
So the idea, we would love, so we've advertised to a lot of schools. A lot of schools know about, we have a few schools here tonight. We've got some primary schools, some secondary school teachers that are here. So we've put the word out, and we'll continue to do that. Our hope is that, yes, schools will want to get more engaged, because we love education here. So
did you try to, go to see museums, also have interactive tables, which
yeah, we have, the only thing we've done is we've invited some folks from museums, and I actually don't know if they're here tonight because I haven't made my way all the way around the room. But that is actually, so the whole idea of the museums, even like the handheld app public thing, we've only had this project going for a month. And our whole intent was actually just schools and space organizations and Space Store. That was it. But we've already all these, hey, pubs would be interesting. I'm like, really, a pub? We've actually had people say, yeah, this might work. So the answer is not really yet, but we are actually now doing that because, and in fact, our survey has a question specifically about that side of things so that we can find out more and see if there is a market there. Airports, here's another one. Who would have thought? You know how you go to the airport, there's news on? Why not have space data? But we don't know. We don't know if airports want that. But that's part of what the study's about, is to find out, maybe they would. Any other questions? Yeah.
On the data you've got, all the open source data, is it sort of labeled for reuse, for commercial reuse? Or is there a copyright there that might cause some problems?
So that's an excellent question. So that is definitely one of the things that we are looking into and working with ESA on that. Now, when it comes to data from NASA or ESA, they have very, very specific things that you can and can't do with data, et cetera. And at the moment, our understanding is that, especially with ESA, because that's who we're working with, is that, yeah, this should be usable. But that is part of what we're doing. So we're, as halfway through the feasibility study, we're actually going to be working with specific data providers from within ESA or different projects to ask and find out these kind of things of okay, are we just going to be able to use it? How are we going to have to credit it? When you look on the screen in the back, you'll see that there's credits for each of the images. So, yeah. Well, I'm not terribly worried about it at this point. So, but yes, if we get into the place with, ESA's co-funding this, so they know all about it and they know how it's going to work. So, pretty sure their lawyers would have been all over us at this point. In fact, I'm sure they are, because holy moly, that's a long contract. Yeah. It's a good question, though. Any other questions? Yeah.
So there's already an app for the International Space Station.
Yeah.
So is there anything stopping Gateways and all the other places you mentioned using that on their screens at the moment? Would they have to pay anything?
No.
For that?
Space Store's doing it right now.
So then my question is, if they already have access to that.
Yeah.
Places aren't using it. So have you considered why that might be? Why they're not using
why they aren't using? That's a good question.
If you think people might be interested in it, what's stopping them doing it at the moment with the space station?
I think that's an interesting question philosophically too as somebody that works in the space industry. So, I'm welcome to be challenged by all my space colleagues out there. I think that we in the space industry are probably the worst at marketing in the world. Like, we just, for whatever reason, we just don't know how to talk about what we do. We don't know how to put it out there. We don't know how to make it available and accessible. I think there's bits and pieces that we've done okay on. You know, everybody knows who NASA is, but there's a long way we have to go. And I think the parallel I would make is Space Store, for example. This has only been around for 8 months. So the room you're standing in, this has existed for 8 months, and we had no idea if there was a demand for people to want to hang out and look at stuff in space and, you know, drink coffee and buy space things and get in spacesuits. We had no idea, but everything is telling us that the demand is there because it's like every month we're making more and more money. And so I think in a similar light with Razor, there's probably a demand out there. There's a want to have this stuff, but it's either they don't know about it or it's just not very accessible. The barriers are too much there. What I will say is that these two screens that we have up here, this is what we have at Space Store during the day, and people love it. We ask people, I mean, people literally just come here to sit and watch and drink organic Italian coffee. It's really good, by the way. Not serving it tonight, but come back tomorrow. You can have champagne tonight. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but that's kind of our thinking behind it. Do I think we're going to have some challenges along? Absolutely, and I'm not. You know what? ESA is really skeptical about this because they've had other people try this, but they said that there was something about this project that made them want to do it. So we'll see. And that survey that we're doing, that'll be very telling because if basically everybody's like, that's not interested, then okay. Any other questions? Remco.
Yeah, you say that space data is cool, and I think many of us think space data is cool. I work in space outreach, and unfortunately I'm finding 90% of the general public does not find space data cool, and does not find that right screen very cool. And you talk about data, but what I find in space outreach is people start to become interested when it matters to them, when it has a relation with their life.
Yeah.
If I look at that screen, filmed from the ISS over the Northern Pacific, water, it's meaningless to most people.
Yeah.
How do you make the information matter to people? How do you connect that rather dull image from the ISS to people here on Earth? The 90% who are not intrinsically interested in this scientific view of the data, but are rather looking for information and not so much data.
So I think you actually had like 3 questions in there. That's really good. So no, they're all good, and they're all good challenges and things for us to think about. So if I can try going, maybe I'll go backwards. So I think one of the questions was, how do we make that dull picture more interesting? Okay. So I think there's a couple ways that one can do that. So at Space Store, we actually have like a thing in the middle that explains what those 2 things are, and that makes, I mean, literally people sit here and, you know, that aren't necessarily, they're not necessarily, maybe they think maybe they're in your 10%, I'm not sure, but I'll get back to that number in a second. Another thing I'd love for folks to check out later, again preempting, going into the back room and seeing the other mock-up that we have of Razor and the amount of data that we have on there, because there's some things that I think they're just so cool that people didn't know it was cool because they didn't know what it was. But put in simple language, which you can see back there, might help that. There's another mock-up we'll put back up in the middle here too, which is of Space Store over 30 days in July, and the United Kingdom. And why does that matter to us? Oh, let's see how our weather is over July 2019. So that could be maybe one of those connections. One thing I will be very interested to see is, so we are putting a survey out where the first question is, do you think space data is cool? I mean, I think it's worded a little differently, like, would you like to see live space data or something like that, Ollie? Is that what it was? Something like, basically that question. So when I did this, so 4 years ago, when we first thought of Space Store, I asked the question, do you like space? And would you like an experience of space on Earth? 96% of people said they like space. 92% of people said they wanted a space experience on Earth. I'll be very interested to see where this comes in. Is it 10%? Is it 50%? I have no idea. So we're going to be blasting it out to thousands of people. So hopefully we'll get a pretty good sample size. All right, well, we still have some more fun things to do, so I'm going to move us on. We'd also love to invite you to play a role in Razor. There is no monetary commitment. Let me just start by saying that. There's nothing like that. This is just, if you are interested and you have a little bit of time, there's two ways that you can get involved. The first is just signing up for a mailing list and hearing about how it's going. Maybe we'll send out that survey through that mailing list, take a survey, that's it. Another way is if you'd like to be more actively involved in helping us shape this, so with these kind of challenging questions and things to think about, we're actually looking for 3 space organizations and 3 educational organizations to have a sit down, have a coffee, coffee's on us, just to chat through some of these questions that Sue, you brought up, some of the questions you brought up, Remco, just to get kind of a better idea and understanding. So those 2 different ways that you can give out. So a little bit more active role. Also, what we would like to do with the more active role, if you're interested, is doing some initial testing. So we basically send you, hey, here's something. Can you mind throwing it up on your screen and just seeing if people think it's crazy or good or something like that? Moving on to the end of our presentation. A big thank you to Space Store for hosting us tonight. So thank you so much for hosting us. They're doing a real special thing for us all tonight. So back here is our experience zone. We've got some Tim Peake replica spacesuits. We've got some VR. We can send you into space, kick you on a launch, do a spacewalk, do a cave dive under the ice caps of Mars, which, by the way, is narrated by none other than James Bond's stunt double, the upcoming movie, who happens to work for Space Store. There's also some cool images in the back. And then, as we discussed, there's another mock-up of Razor you can take a look at and say, oh, okay, I can see how this works, or oh, that doesn't work at all. You know, that'd be helpful feedback. So with that, anything else you want to say, Laksh, before we...
Good. Just want to say a big thank you for coming, and please do sign up interest involvement sheets so we can take all this feedback on board and start developing Razor.
Yeah, so thank you for coming tonight.
Hi guys, I hope you really enjoyed that presentation of Razor and learned a bit more about what it's going to be about. As I said, it's going to be launching next year, so watch this space for Razor, a very exciting up and coming new project, and a few reminders from me now actually about Space Door Live. The Thursday night talks, this is actually the last one sadly of this season. We're going to be taking a short break and we'll be back in October, bigger and better, with some more extraordinary talks for you on Thursday night, so please do look out for those after the summer. But Space Door Live is not going anywhere, because every other Tuesday night, we're going to be having Nick Howes and Terry Mosley giving you a space roundup of all the latest and greatest space news. So tune into our YouTube channel live every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. for those. And if you're one with kids, definitely do tune in on a weekly basis to our Kids AM, where we have some amazing activities for children of all ages. And the Ephemeris quiz is also going to be back on a monthly basis starting in August, so do look out on our social media pages for that. Also, if you enjoyed tonight's talk, make sure you click the like button and subscribe, and as I said, share it with anyone who you think will enjoy it. Take care. Have a good evening, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.